Graciously let a ray of your light penetrate the darkness of my understanding. Take from me the double darkness in which I have been born, an obscurity of sin and ignorance. Give me a keen understanding, a retentive memory, and the ability to grasp things correctly and fundamentally. Grant me the talent of being exact in my explanations and the ability to express myself with thoroughness and charm. Point out the beginning, direct the progress, and help in the completion through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So today we have this final topic, the fourth session on freedom. Many times, as Catholics, we want to choose the topic of freedom because obviously it's a very important value in our culture. And because many times I think we are faced with this objection, and that is that we Catholics are not free. People may say at you, well, you're not really free because you follow all these rules and what the church teaches and all that. Or Christianity doesn't really allow you to explore things and to expand and explore all the options and so on, or the commandments of the Bible can be very oppressive and so on. Well, in our very secular state of Oregon, we hear a lot of that. And I think if you're on campus especially, right, you might hear things like that. And I think our students, especially students in schools or on campus, they may feel this kind of pull from the culture that tells them, you're missing out. All people are doing all this stuff, and you're like, being Catholic gives you less opportunities to really do things. So how do we respond to that? As Christians, as Catholics, are we free? Do we have less freedom than other people? And I think, of course, to discuss this question properly, what we need to do is to understand what freedom is about, to explore, to analyze the concept of freedom. Because actually, what Christ tells us is that when we follow Him, we have a greater freedom. And that's my experience at least. But the Lord says in John 8:31-32, if you remain in my word, you will truly be my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. It's interesting how you put these things, how the Lord puts these things together. It says, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. I think in the common perception today, people will oppose the idea of truth and freedom. If you follow something as a rule of truth, you will be probably not less free. But the Lord seems to think that it's the other way around, because you are in the truth. You have a greater freedom. Another interesting idea that comes from the fathers of the church is when they read Genesis 1 and they say that we were made in the image of God, in the image and likeness of God, and they would ask themselves, what does this mean? What does it mean to be made in the image and likeness of God? And many of them replied, like Gregory of Nyssa, for example, freedom. One of the things that make us in the image of God is that we are free. We are not simply determined to act in the way that, like particles or materials or inanimate things are determined to act in a certain way. They have laws that determine their behavior. Animals are ruled by instinct. But we have the ability to choose and to be free and to determine our path in many ways. So let's go and explore what does it mean? How do we understand it? How is it possible to understand that are we really free in following Christ? Is there a freedom in that? St. Paul says that we have the freedom of the children of God. What does that mean? Right. Well, when do we say that someone is free? I think a first response that people will say is, well, if you have options, right? If you can choose which way you go, what things to do, whether to do something or not to do it, then you're free. A very first, basic definition of freedom would be the ability to choose between good and evil. That ability to choose between what's right and wrong. For example, your kids go to a party and say, you have the gift of freedom. If you're offered drugs, you can always say no. I mean, the peer pressure may be very strong, but you're not determined to say whatever the group is wanting you to do. You can always say no. And that ability to say yes or no manifests that you are free. Now, let's look at this. What happens if you accept? What happens if you say yes to drugs, or if you yes to anything that would put you on a path of addiction? Well, the first times that you do that may be a free choice. But then the more you walk into it, the less freedom you have, actually. Because once you are into that path, for example, let's suppose it's an addiction to drugs. Well, then, by the 10th time, you don't have the same amount of freedom you had in the beginning, right? It's like you cannot really say no so easily anymore. The first time you were quite, it wasn't easy, but it was pretty possible to say, no, I don't want that. Now, by the 10th time, you kind of lost a big chunk of that freedom. And here's the first element that we discovered, that this choices many times are unequal. Because while good will keep you in the path of freedom, once you face the next choice, you can always still say yes or no, the path of evil very often diminishes freedom. And this has to do with, remember the definition of good and evil we saw in class number 2, that good is whatever goes in the line of your nature, in who you are. Evil is whatever goes against who you are, your nature. Well, it's not surprising that if you go in a path that is against your very being, your freedom will be compromised in choosing that. So we have the ability to kind of undo who we are and undo our freedom in doing so. Now, some people will say, well, am I not inclined to do good things also? I mean, do you think it's not like things don't come in a vacuum, right? I mean, many times I want to help my little brother do something and I also feel inclined to do that. It's not like only bad things are tempting in a way. Yeah, but still, it's true. And I think that's a great thing. Obviously, good things are also enticing in some way. But notice how different is the temptation to evil things and the encouragement to do good things. So when there's, mom and dad, they're telling me you have to do your homework. Or when there's this group at church that they're all doing good works for other people or praying together. I mean, I feel encouraged to do the good things. But it's not like this kind of very anxious gnawing at my soul that is kind of pulling me in a direction I don't want to go. So whenever I find a group like Jen was describing in this mission, they're doing the right things, and you feel encouraged by them. You say, well, it's great. I feel like I can do what I really want to do with this group, right? While temptation is a temptation or something that is luring me to evil, it's like something pulling me in a direction I don't really want to go there. But I feel that just weighed down by this anger or this pride, this jealousy, this sadness. There's something that is kind of gnawing at me, right? So even in the way you experience that psychologically, you realize it's not the same. It's not the same. The pull of something that is inclining you to evil is not experienced in the same way like a good influence that is opening your soul up to good things. In the latter, you feel like you're really free. It's like, it's great to have this encouragement, but I am choosing this very, very clearly. Well, precisely one of the things that are a consequence of original sin is that many times we are inclined, with moments of weakness, we feel inclined to evil things, even though we wish we would not be so inclined. Genesis 6, verses 5 and 6, it says the following: When the Lord saw how great the wickedness of human beings was on earth, and how every desire that their heart conceived was always nothing but evil, the Lord regretted making human beings on the earth, and his heart was grieved. This is one of the effects of that rebellion of Adam and Eve, right? There's this, every desire their heart conceived was always nothing but evil. So let's go toward a deeper definition of freedom. I think we just mentioned the first one. We're going to take that. It's defined by choosing, right? It's defined by these different options, and if I have the ability to choose between different things or choose between good and evil, well, then I'm free. But I think we need to go to a deeper definition of freedom. For this reason, because if between these two extremes, let's say I'm choosing between good and evil, if I choose evil, I will start losing, I will start diminishing my freedom very quickly. Well, therefore, it seems like not right that I would define freedom when one of the options is going to diminish my freedom, right? And I think the problem can be illuminated from this perspective. Like, we do not choose the ultimate goal of human existence. Now, as a Catholic, I would say our ultimate goal in our lives is always God. If you are talking to someone who is not readily a Christian or a Catholic, you say, well, ultimately our goal is in some form of love, of truly knowing what is out there, knowing others and loving others. I would say loving God and loving others in the way that God loves us, right? But that's where the ultimate goal of our existence is. Now, that ultimate goal is not something I choose, so to say. It's a given. Our greatest happiness is to be united to God. Now, in fact, of course, there could be other ends. I could choose to make my career my ultimate goal in life, or money, pleasure, fame. I mean, I could choose those things as an ultimate goal in life. What I couldn't do is make those other ultimate goals truly make me happy. So I can try to put something other than God in that place. What I cannot do is that will provide me with ultimate fulfillment. Because in a way, my heart, my life is set on that I am made for God. I am made for love. So the challenge is still, are we free? If that's the situation, if that's our makeup, that's how we are made, are we truly free? Right? If I'm really made for God and for the love, then I cannot really make something else work for me. Am I truly free? Well, let me answer with another question here, which I found pretty much perplexing and that opens up the topic is, well, imagine those who are already in heaven. Just picture those who are already saved and are before God and have attained the fulfillment of their lives. Are they free to choose against that? Or, if you want another alternative to that, would be, is God free? If the definition of freedom is choose between good and evil, is God free? I'm going to place it on the human side, if you want, by thinking of Christ, the Son of God, but also man. Was Jesus free? If we define freedom, we would be choosing between good and evil. Was Jesus a free human being, in that sense, or person, divine person, but human being too? So was he free, really? Because he could not have chosen evil, obviously. So what's the freedom that God would have? What's the freedom that Jesus has? Obviously, I think we need to go expand and go beyond the mere choosing an option. I think we can start to respond in this way. If freedom is defined purely and only as choosing different options, good and evil, then in a sense, well, no, God is not free, or those saints in heaven are not free, because he could never choose evil, right? But if you understand freedom in a deeper way, let's put it this way, if you understand freedom as the ability to choose according to your deepest being, that ability, I would say, to act in accordance with who you are. that ability to be determined, not from the outside, not by a law or something that says, well, you will always be determined by this physical law to act this way, but from the inside, to always want something. In philosophy, we call it ad intrinsico, from within, right? You're determined to that, but you want it that way. Then, obviously, God is free, and saints are free. You know, our wills, our hearts are made to seek what is good, right? Not coerced from the outside, not forced, but to really choose what is good. Right? If you always choose what is good, it's not because you're not free to choose otherwise, because that's what you really want. That's what your freedom and your will are made for. Let me see if I can present it. Maybe this experiment will help to understand what I mean as well. Imagine you did this survey, right? You said, well, I will isolate these 1,000 people, right? And every single time I will ask them, do you want to be healthy or do you want to get this terminal illness? And every single one of them, of the 1,000, they say, I want to be healthy. My conclusion as a sociologist would be, well, these people are not free because they're like predetermined to say they always want the same thing. There must be something that they're not really, doesn't allow them to choose. Well, someone with more enlightenment here would say, well, no, it's not, they are free. It's just that they, obviously, it's so clear that this is what is good for them. They would never choose otherwise. Right? It's not they're not choosing to be sick because, well, they don't have the freedom to choose it. They could, but not in their dreams. They would prefer to be sick as to be healthy, right? Well, if you ask the saints in heaven, hey, do you want to abandon God? Do you want to do something that will kind of assert your freedom against God? They would say, no way. All of them, millions of them. And you may conclude they're not free because none of them would rebel against God. Well, all of them would say, well, are you nuts? Why would you rebel against the most amazing, best reality you could ever imagine? And it's right there in front of you. Why would you want to reject the most lovable one there is? Why would you do that? Are you crazy? Now, why do we have that? Why do we don't have that in this life? Well, because in this life we don't know so well. It's as if in this life we're not so completely sure that it's better to be healthy than to have a terminal illness. Right? We're not so completely sure about it, and so we can still have that lesser freedom that we call free will, if you want, or liber arbitrium in Latin, right? In this life we cannot see God face to face, and at times we may think, well, maybe trip in the Caribbean is better than God, or maybe maybe pleasure is better than heaven. I don't know. All things in this life, from TV shows to sports to computers we buy to clothes to houses, all of them have some goodness, some relative goodness, more or less. But they all have some goodness about them. They all kind of attract. All these things seem very attractive. There's something good that I can gain from them. And even God in this life appears as one of those relative goods. I don't see that absolute character of God in this world, that it will kind of completely grasp my mind, my will completely. In heaven, when I see God face to face, I won't be able to kind of turn my gaze away from God for a second. It's like the most amazing and wonderful, fascinating view and love that you could ever imagine. But in this life, God can be also like, no, yeah, one more thing. Because I don't see him face to face, but only through sort of dim reflections, right? So here's the point, is that I could choose between different things. I say, well, right now, playing this game would be more exciting for me than going to class. Or right now, I don't know, having this barbecue seems more exciting than spending some time in prayer. So in this life, we have these different relative goods, and they go up and down all the time, like stock in the market. And none of them seems like the absolute, right? Well, heaven will be completely different from that. But in this life, we have this relative sense of the goods. Instead, we can end up actually forfeiting the good for some goods that are completely silly in comparison, right? I had some experiences in my life like that. They may sound funny at this time at the stage, but I actually remember when I was first discerning my vocation. I remember I would always go on weekends with my family and go to this like club and play games, play sports, play golf, play tennis. And my first discernment, I was really young in college, and I was thinking like, if I follow the priesthood, I won't be able to do that. And I remember talking to my spiritual director, Father, I'm kind of afraid about the priesthood because I don't think I would come. I don't see myself as a priest really like playing tennis on the weekends or doing this or that. And he said, don't worry about it. Obviously you will be able to do sports as a priest. And I said, oh, that sounds great. And then, maybe a couple of years later, I was already in a different place, spiritually, humanly, to a point that I wouldn't even care so much for. It was fun to play sports, but I wouldn't kind of center my life on games, right? And so when I look back and then I say how stupid I was. Like, imagine I would have lost my vocation because I couldn't think of myself doing something else on the weekends and playing games, right? And not that I love sports, it's exciting, it's great, it's fun, but it's like it doesn't define your life. It's not the center of your life. But in some moments in your development, in your growth, they can seem almost as important as the ultimate meaning of life, which seems ridiculous, but it is. Thomas Aquinas would say the following. He says, freedom, and this is a very nuanced definition which I love. He says, freedom is the ability to choose the means while maintaining the orientation towards the true end. Freedom is the ability, here's Windows working, let me see. Freedom is the ability to choose the means while maintaining the orientation towards the true end. So I love this definition of Aquinas because it combines the two things. It combines choosing and that our ultimate end is a given. We don't choose it, right? So we don't choose the ultimate end that will bring us happiness. That's given us. If I choose an ultimate end that is other than God, I will have failed. I'm already losing that freedom and I'm becoming a slave. Because when I run towards an idol of money, pleasure, fame, power, control, I'm enslaved by that. So Aquinas says, maintain the orientation towards the true end. But we have to. Freedom, part of freedom is that. If you are steering a ship and you want to reach harbor, you want to reach that place, and the winds and all the things that happen try to make you turn away from that harbor. What is your freedom but that conscious determination that will overcome the obstacles and get you to that harbor that you have to reach? Freedom is also that ability to I know that's my way, and that's where I need to get. And get there, in spite of the obstacles and the winds and the storms. But while I maintain that orientation to the end, to the true end, I have to choose the means. There are 1,000 ways in which I can seek God in my life, in which I can basically fulfill that goal of loving, of giving of myself. I could do it through a vocation to consecrated life. I could do it in marriage. I could do it by raising my children, by becoming an engineer or a doctor or an architect or a farmer or a teacher, by staying at home with caring for my kids and raising them up and training them in the faith, being a catechist. I could do so by offering my sufferings, my struggles. I could do so by serving others in the community. There's a zillion ways in which I could seek God, right? I can maintain the orientation towards the true end. Still, there's many, many ways. And probably there's not just one way in life. I'm I'm constantly adjusting how I'm pursuing that goal. Any human activity, I would say, as long as it can be directed towards the true goal, is a valid one, and it's a means that I'm choosing towards that end. So that's for Aquinas, the field of election. It's not, Aquinas wouldn't say, well, no, in freedom you never choose. Rather, he says there is a field of election, and that's about the means that will somehow be your steps towards the final goal. Now, I'd like to highlight something. There's a link to C.S. Lewis, what we learned last time here. I don't know if it was last time, actually. Remember the abolition of man, about the different theories of education, and how, Gaius and Theseus would provide, they would say basically you kind of construct, your emotions are a reflection of something that's there, simply your subjective reaction to things and so on. But I think, and Lewis kind of denounced this lack of connection between the subjective world and the world out there, right? Something that he would denounce is this lack of true formation in the soul, lack of true orientation. Like an education that simply gives you the tools. They'll tell you, we will teach you all these skills. We'll teach you how to use a computer, how to write, how to read, how to be eloquent, for whatever you want. But how to use all those skills. You will be able to do math, to calculate things, to invent things, to manage a business. There's only one thing that they don't tell you. What is it for? You have all these tools in your toolbox, right? And you can ask, what am I supposed to do with that? Well, whatever you want. And what is whatever? What is it that I'm supposed to build? What is the society or the man, the woman I'm supposed to build with this? What is the life I'm supposed to lead with this? That's what Lewis says that education is lacking. We're giving all these tools, all these means, but where's the end? Right? Where are we supposed to go? And that's where I think the quote of the Lord in the Gospel is so profound and necessary. He says, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Because if there is no goal, really, if there is no place to go, you just, whatever you want to do, whatever, it's all the same. It doesn't really matter. You can build yourself or design yourself the way you want. Now, none of those designs are really relevant because none of them are true or not true. Then freedom is there as a choosing, but it's rendered useless. As a friend of mine would say, a philosopher would say, what good is the freedom for a tiger in the moon, right? I mean, tiger can go whatever he wants in the moon, but what direction has any purpose or meaning here? So the freest person in the vision of Christ, St. Paul, saints, is the one people who grasp their ultimate goal, who grasp the true ultimate goal and can pursue it. If someone doesn't know where to go, the person is not free. They are confused, really. They are lost. They can say, I can choose my path, but, the path doesn't have any meaning or purpose or reality in the end. And that's why Jesus can say, if you follow my word, you will know the truth will set you free. You will find who you are meant to be. I think one of this initially sounded to me a bit like too deterministic, but then I remember reading recently, in preparing my thesis, reading this line saying, I think it was the German theologian Matthias Schering, who said, talking about Pelagianism and freedom and grace and Pelagius. And he says, if you create a human being for whom choosing aberrations or crimes is exactly the same as choosing good, you don't have a free being, you create a monster, really. If it's exactly the same to perform, to commit a crime or to torture someone than to help that person. I say I'm completely indifferent to one or the other. That's not a human person. It's like a robot. It's a monster, really. And so you can sense that there's never equality between good and evil. Like we're made for the good, and that is a good thing. That is a good thing. That our freedom, our will, has this kind of pre-orientation towards the good. Doing what is good actually fits your natural inclination in your will. It's not something superimposed from the outside. While turning your will to evil things actually is a sort of violence against your will. Now we know that in this life, because of that brokenness, many times we would like to be freer, but we cannot many times. We need the grace of God in this life to be set free, to be freed up from the allurements and distractions and confusion that many times cripple that desire to do the good. And so as Christians, we know we need the power of God's grace to attain freedom. So that's what the phrase of the Lord. The truth will set you, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Okay, I think it's enough. Enough musings and pondering for now. Just got the windows open, but I think it's late. I may set up a little quote up there. So why don't we go into Q&A time, and then we'll have find out the text findings. Yes, Keith.
Well, back to your discourse on the saints and their status.
Yeah.
So, I guess I had the idea, of not getting the wrong idea, but that somehow as you reach that state, I kind of thought you would actually give up the possibility of doing wrong.
You're right. So when you reach heaven, you give up the possibility of doing wrong. However, not because you're chained or somehow kept from doing wrong, but because you would never want to do it again, right? It would be so evident that you want to do always a good thing, as now it's evident that you don't want this suffering for yourself, but you want health, for example, right? The person you love the most, you would not want to hurt that person at all. You want to help them, right? You want to help your wife or your child or your mom. When it's so evident, obviously I have no temptation to damage or harm someone that I love so much. In heaven it's even more clearer than that. So it's not so much just like for demons, it's not they are set on evil because they freely chose to freeze their wills on this cold-blooded evil decision. Just so for the saints, they have this clear side that I would never do anything. I would never, what the lady said in the last text, I would never walk out of love. Right? I would not go outside of love. And it's like they see it so clearly. They would be like acting against their most clear perception to go against it. Yes, Judith.
So I can see clearly that between evil and good aligns with God, so which is good. But in life you also encounter different levels of goodness, and sometimes that is not clear to you, which is much better than another. You have two options, both seem good.
Yeah, correct.
And so that means that are there gradations of goodness?
Yes, no, that's a great question, Judith. So at times you're not choosing between good and evil, you're choosing between things that both are good, right? And so in Christian vocabulary, we call that the field of discernment. Many times we talk about discernment when actually these two things, or these three different paths, are all of them leading towards a good thing, a holy thing, but they're different. So which one of them do I choose? Well, usually you see there's a gradation, so there's one of them that is better than others. So you, in principle, you maybe want to try to choose the best one of the three or the two. But I think that's the field of discernment. So there's no necessity when all of them, when different good paths all lead to good things. You're not definitely in that case. You're not determined to choose one of them. You have a true freedom of election. And that's the, if you want, the field where you have to use prudence according to many factors. For example, who am I? What is my position in life? What is my vocation? Or what are my skills, my talents? What are the needs that I perceive as most urgent? What will be the consequences of choosing this or that one, right? So there, obviously there's many of those that are in the field that you're suggesting. I could do different careers, and none of them are wrong. So which one is the one that I think responds better to my skills and my desires, what I feel more capable of doing? Yeah, that's a legitimate field. Now, something that Teresa d'Avila would say at times in the spiritual life, there is a sense in which God is calling you, Holy Spirit is calling you to surrender, a greater step of love. And it says the contrary spirit, the evil spirit, will try to not make you turn away from good altogether, because the devil knows that you will not settle for that. But he may try to make you choose the lesser option many times. So at times there is a temptation which is not towards evil, but it's towards just settle for the average good. Don't want to be better, right? Why help all these people? Just stay home. Get rid of the book and it's fine. You're not doing anything wrong with that. And so at times, but it's not that any. Should be careful not to take that option as a sin. But at times you sense that God is prompting me to something more, and I just want to stay maybe in my lukewarmness a bit. So at times there is a thing where the Holy Spirit is kind of pushing me forward, and I want to stay back. And not in a sin, but just in not moving forward. Let's go Michael, and then I don't know your name. John. Let's go to Michael and then John.
This whole discussion brings up something that to me is troubling, and that is that you use the saints as an exemplar. In essence, the saints have achieved a level where they know the truth. And the truth is a complete understanding of what evil is and a complete understanding of what good is. And our inclination is to choose good. Yeah. And so, given the fact that we know the ugliness of evil and the beauty of good, we're going to choose good. Yeah. And that brings us to the existence of Satan. At some point, Lucifer made a choice.
Yes.
And that being had the same advantages that the saints have now. So what happened?
Well, no, I have to say to the last one, no. I mean, your train of thought is perfect, but no, he would not have had that clarity. Because so even the angels had a moment of choice, and that moment meant that they didn't completely have the vision of God face to face. It's like you couldn't choose against what you completely and totally perceive as the good, right? So they normally, great thinkers would say, no, the angels had a moment of choice, which entailed also a lesser kind of a freedom in which they could still maybe not have the perfect clarity of that good. So when Lucifer chose against that, it wasn't the situation of the saints in heaven.
So the theological notion is that these beings were created.
Yes.
And they were created in an imperfect state as human beings were.
Well, yes, imperfect, yeah. Not in a physical state as us, but yeah.
No,
yes.
No.
In imperfect state in that sense, yes. Not yet in the vision face to face with God.
Yeah, and at some point in time, they for whatever reason had to make a choice between good and evil, and Lucifer chose evil.
Correct.
Did evil exist outside of Lucifer?
No. I was not before those angels choose. Because I think it's, as Lewis would put it, I think one of the brightest ways of to go into those, that is in Lewis's work, the problem of pain or in a science fiction work that is called Perelandra. Okay? In those two works, I think he captures in the best possible way what's the choice about. And he says basically it's the choice that a creature has between choosing God and self. There's a passage in which actually it's like a re-edition of Original Sin, and this scientist, which is possessed in a strange way, he's like the scientist who goes into this new world, just newly created world. He's a man, but he's been like possessed by the devil, and so he goes to tempt the first woman in that world, the Green Lady, and so he says to her, "Why don't in that world, this woman is in perfect communion with God. She knows God. She's like she's to start this new race in this planet." And the scientist says to her, "Why don't you?" Something that God has forbidden her is they live in these islands that are like floating islands, right? And they can go into solid ground, solid land, but they cannot sleep there. They cannot stay in the solid land. They always have to go back to these floating islands, right? And so he says to her, "Why don't you go and stay in solid ground?" He says, "No, because God has told us that we shouldn't." "Yes, but you could learn because she's always thinking about growing older, maybe more experienced about things. And the scientist says to her, "You could grow and learn more things, and maybe more experienced about things." He says, "Yes, but why would I disobey and not trust God? God knows what is best for me." I said, "But what, something that you need to do is God at some point wants you to choose for yourself without knowing what He will tell you. He would want you to choose something that He has not told you to do." I said, "Why would God want me to do that?" "Well, because that's precisely growing up. You choose something, not because you're told to, but because you choose it." I said, "Why wouldn't God tell me that?" "Well, because if God told you, then it would defeat the purpose. You would do it because He's telling you." He said, "God wants you to disobey Him so that you can grow." And so she's like confused with this idea, like I have to do this against what God is telling me to. Yes, because otherwise, if you just do it because you're told, then you're never growing, right? And so she starts to be confused about this concept. But ultimately, Lewis captures this idea that it's very smart how all the turns that the devil takes to kind of tempt this person. There's always this ultimate thing about choosing God and to trust Him and to follow, or to just assert yourself, right? And that's, I think he pins down, that's kind of the temptation of the angels. And any rational creature, no matter if you're a man, woman, an angel, you're always, ultimately, do I choose to follow God's lead and to love Him, trust Him, seek Him with all my heart, or ultimately I want to affirm myself aside from God in some way. So I think that's what temptation is about. And actually it's there every single time, every single day of our lives. We're kind of choosing that over and over again in the small choices that we take. Let's go to John over here.
I really like how you put the fact that God or the good doesn't predetermine or stipulate how to get there. And the examples you gave all seem pretty positive choices. But incredible people like St. Francis and St. Paul and others chose routes that you wouldn't have expected would have led them to God.
Yeah.
And so I think it is very different from person to person. And some people take the easy way, some people take the hard way. And I think it's up to us not to judge along the way what that person needs to experience to get there.
Yeah.
And that I think sometimes people get there and they may not even call it God. Where you or I might look at what they've done and think they've gotten very close to God, that they're calling it something different. So I think it's an interesting concept, freedom and what you might call the end goal line.
Yes. Yes, there's always a direction that is good, even though you don't know exactly what that good ultimately is. However, you'll always be more empowered when you know it, right? That's what revelation is there for, is to give us more clarity about it. It's not simply, we all have this ingrained, this built-in desire to do what is good, to follow our conscience, to help one another, to seek what is true. Those are tendencies that are general in every human being, right? But they're like open tendencies, and whenever we're given more clarity about the end goal, that will help us. Now, something that you mentioned, John, is that there's so many ways, so many paths, and some of them are very free and expected. I think that touches upon a very fascinating subject, which is in that option of the free means, the optional means that we can choose towards God, towards the ultimate goal, right? There's so many of them. I think many of them are guided by very general guidelines. The commandments, follow your conscience, love others, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't kill, love your neighbor, love God. There are those general guidelines, but then I think many of the saints, what happens is they also being guided by these additional helps of the promptings of the Holy Spirit, the words of the gospel that resonate in their hearts, God's providence. Kind of Jesus telling them to follow me, right? So there's a superior kind of guidance. There's a guidance that is basically follow your manual, instruction manual. It says, maintenance after 3,000 miles. Okay, find my next dealer and change the oil. Okay. But then there's another one that says, I don't know, it's like the Matrix say, like, turn in the street right now. It's like, where did that come from? So like God is telling you, choose, go there. Right? So for many people, there's that amazing guidance of someone with God coming to you and saying, John, I want you to do this for me. And that's, we mentioned, we touched upon that one last time when I mentioned, that personal relationship with God has something very fascinating. It goes above morality in this sense. Not because it will go against the morality of good and evil, but because it will lead you to paths that you would never choose based on general guidelines. Based on general guidelines, there could never have been someone like Abraham. Leave your land and go to the land where I will call you. And never someone like Moses. Never someone like St. Paul. Like Mother Teresa. Just by following general rules, you could never attain that. That's when someone that God has told them, I need you to do this for me. And it's free. It's not like God is saying you have to. It's more like, will you follow me? Right? So it's like further in the path of good. Not less. It's further, beyond. But it's beyond, way beyond the minimum guidelines. And there's also a freedom in that, I would say. But that's another topic, so I think it's another.
I would say that Jonah wasn't that free in choosing.
Right.
Jonah had to suffer every time that he tried to choose. He would end up in trouble. So.
Yeah, that's true. Ultimately there is a harm. There's an explicit command from God. There's a harm in distrusting because you do break a relationship. I think at times God wants to awaken in you a greater generosity, but at times He wants you to trust Him and distrust Him and to say, well, no, wait, I know better than what you've done than you. It's always ultimately destructive for your soul because it's damaging that one relationship that is the fundamental one. It doesn't matter what happens outside in the world. It's more like what you and God is damaging that fundamental relationship of trust. And I think, again, that there's situations in which God wants to awaken that freedom from you and say, hey, this is something greater. You can do something better than that. But at times God says, trust me, I need to lead you in this. And I'd rather say no, than leave me alone. Yes, we got it.
So I know that the Old Testament we have to take it with a grain of salt in some sense, but a lot of times we see both really, and this goes into your mention of the nature of God and the goodness of the nature of God, and really that's what it is. But a lot of times we see God repenting of having regrets of something, and some other times maybe just deciding to restart everything again, for example with the flood, etc. So at that point he makes a choice himself. So how do we interpret that type of choice of God?
Mostly I would say that, there's a theology that thinks very strictly those lines, but it's a very flawed theology. It's called the process theology, in which God is like a kind of a superhuman being kind of thing. It's like God kind of learns along the way how to be providential and how to do things better. And he can make mistakes and oops, the covenant wasn't the right way. Let's try something else. So there's a very much idea of many evangelical circles actually of that kind of process theology. What I would say to that is there's many things, many passions, and many displays of emotion, thinking in God are more metaphorical in the Bible. It's not really that God gets angry in this kind of visceral God sense that we think of anger, or that he regrets what he did because what did I do? It's more that in a sense God thinks this shouldn't be. Obviously, God sees certain things as they shouldn't be. They shouldn't have happened that way. But God sees from the very beginning how things are going to unfold. And so, what I think you could explain is this way: that at times God says, "I will follow this path in your life, provided that you respond faithfully. Like this is what I have in store for you if you respond faithfully. If you don't, all these bad things are going to happen. I don't want those bad things for you. I want these good things, but you have to respond faithfully for them to happen. If you don't respond faithfully, these other bad things are going to happen. But it's not that I change my mind. It's more like I think from the outset, God says, I created you for blessings and all these good things. But if you don't persevere in that, if you don't seek them, they're going to be lost for you. And in that sense, there is not such a change of God regretting what he did, but it's more like, I set this path good for you, but you need to comply, or you need to accept it, you need to be up to that, prepare for it. So it turns into that God sets this path for Israel. Israel would not trust, and they would murmur against God, and so they lose what God had prepared for them. God said, you will go to the promised land very quickly, but then they despise it. They said, this land is ugly, and people are going to slaughter us, and we don't really want that. So I said, fine, just go back to the desert. It's not that he couldn't lead them, but he said they would not really desire it, really. And so it's not so much a change in mind, but says, there's this plan in which God says, if you go this way, I can lead you very quickly to something. But if you just don't want it, well, I can get you there, right? You had to want it. So I think that's the way you would explain it. Yes.
Well, as you've been talking about this topic, the scripture's been coming to my mind, the story of the poor man, the beggar, who dies and goes to Abraham's bosom, and then the rich man.
Yes, Lazarus, poor Lazarus, and the rich man.
Yeah, and that story has always been troubling because you want more compassion from God. But I really want you to kind of open this up a little bit more, because I think what you're talking about is the answer to this.
The freedom
You know what
there.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the very last verse is, but he said to them, if they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded if someone rises from the dead. So it's kind of like their choice. It's about choice and freedom.
Yes.
That is what was keeping them, instead of this chasm that they don't have any. They already made their choice. I don't know. I just would like you to talk more about that.
I would say, so that's the parable of Luke 16, right? The poor Lazarus and the rich man who dines sumptuously every day, and Lazarus is sitting at his door, a beggar, and they both die. the rich man is taken to the place of torment, poor Lazarus goes to the bosom of Abraham, which is symbol for those who are saved, but in the Old Testament. So that's the image we use for those who are there before the redemption of Christ. They're still awaiting God's salvation, so not condemned, but saved, but not saved in a sense, because they cannot re-enter heaven until salvation is accomplished. So anyhow, the point is they go to different places, and the rich man wants to send Lazarus to my brothers. They have 5 brothers, so that he may warn them, and so that they don't fall into this place of torment. And Abraham says to this rich man, they have Moses and the prophets, let them listen to them. And the rich man says, no, Father Abraham, but if one rises among the dead, they will repent, they will change. And Abraham says, well, if they will not listen to Moses and the prophets, even should one rise among the dead, they will not repent. Right? I would say maybe the thing I related to is that option I told you, between my vocation and sports. At times it's like we have this so clear difference of goods, right? We have this amazing good on one side and this tiny good here. But this one, because it's just very close to my heart, it eclipses everything else, right? It's like I love computer games, and I would lose a girlfriend, a job, this championship, because I just love this computer. And right now it's so close to me, right? And you could see a teen doing that. It's like, you idiot, like, can't you see a bit more? Like, but at times and that's a symbol of our lives. Many times, something that I have right very next to me, it's the most important thing. But if I could see a bit better, obviously it cannot be, right? And for those people in the parable, they would choose food over heaven, right? If they thought with clarity for a moment, they would say, well, it cannot possibly be that just wealth or good food is the purpose of life. But at some point, it's like we want to be deceived in that. What Abraham says there, what ultimately God is saying is, I think they have the resources they need to change. So no one is deprived of the path they need. So God will always provide some way for people to realize what is the good thing they need. Now, what God does not guarantee is that it will be easy, that it will be overpowering, right? So the kind of soul conversion, that he's kind of thrown to the ground and like in your face, it's like this overpowering grace that you will not be able to choose anything else but God. So God doesn't guarantee that you will be like thrown down like that, but that you will be able to tell them that you will have a choice, even though it may be a bit a confusing one, but you will be able to see, no, this is the right choice. Even though many things can be a bit confusing, they have the means that they need to change. And so Abraham says, basically he's pointing to this fact. Jesus is subtly pointing to his own resurrection. So the Pharisees, even though he will raise Lazarus from the dead, right? Even though Jesus himself will rise from the dead, many will not accept him. Many of the Jews will close their eyes on purpose. They will just be blinded, like willfully blinded to the truth about the Messiah. Because they didn't want to change their thing, something in them didn't want to accept that. Even though it was evident, like, how else can you explain? So Jesus says, even if something like that powerful as the resurrection of someone happened, they will not repent anyways. Because they're not being faithful to Moses and the prophets in the first place already. So why should God give them an additional? If the reason why they're not changing is because they don't want to change, why do you ask for a more powerful sign? They will not change anyways, right? And so there's a quote that is a bit mysterious, but Jesus says, wisdom has been justified by her children, right? He says, John the Baptist came the way of penance and so on, and and he said he's crazy, he's nuts. And then the Son of Man came, and he's drinking and meeting with the sinners, and you say, oh, he's a drunkard, he's a worldly person. And so some of these people would, either way, they would be like, oh, no, that's not gonna. And Jesus said, but the wisdom of God has been justified by her children, which means many have followed through that. For many put a lot of are picky and say, well, God didn't do it good enough for me. If God had done this or that, maybe I would have listened, but He didn't. So, and Jesus said, well, many have listened. So guess what? In this percentile, you get like 0 here. You get like 10 lower because all these other people said yes, and you're still saying no, right? So if other people could, why wouldn't you? And so Jesus says here, they have most of the problem. So there's this thing that God will give enough tools for us to respond. Not this overpowering light that will throw you down, but enough light that you will be able to choose. If you're not choosing that, then it's on you, and you're not responding, right? So I think that's how you can. It's a very fascinating topic. I think it's like we're touching a bit on why God did things the way He did them. I think ultimately it's because at times there's a closeness of mind or a heart that is to not want something, but it's not. So we would always be demanding more and more. But God will give us more and say, well, could you even go beyond that? And why don't you do that for me? And it will never be enough. God, I think I need to leave you hang there. Why don't we take a break?
Yeah, we'll stop.
Take a break now until water passes. Between good and evil, right? And in this case, interestingly, these two friends are two former bishops in the Anglican Church, right? And so one of them is saved, is trying to help his friend come to heaven with him, while the other friend doesn't want to, right? So let's see what happens.
This is from The Great Divorce. Can you hear me if I speak like this?
Yeah.
Okay. For a moment, there was silence under the cedar trees, and then, it was broken. 2 velvet-footed lions came bouncing into the open space, their eyes fixed upon each other, and started playing some solemn romp. Their manes looked as if they had been just dipped in the river, whose noise I could hear close at hand, though the trees hid it. Not greatly liking my company, I moved away to find that river, and after passing some thick flowering bushes, I succeeded. The bushes came down almost to the brink. It was as smooth as Thames, but flowed swiftly like a mountain stream, pale green where trees overhung it, but so clear that I could count the pebbles at the bottom. Close beside me, I saw another of the bright people in conversation with the ghost. It was that fat ghost with the cultured voice who had addressed me on the bus, and it seemed to be wearing gaiters.
My dear boy, I'm delighted to see you, it was saying to the spirit, who was naked and almost blindingly white. I was talking to your poor father the other day and wondering where you were.
You didn't bring him? Said the other.
Well, no, he lives a long way from the bus, and to be quite frank, he's been getting a little eccentric lately. A little difficult, losing his grip. He was never prepared to make any great efforts, If you remember, he used to go to sleep when you and I got talking seriously. Ah, Dick, I shall never forget some of our talks. I expect you've changed your views a bit since then. You became rather narrow-minded toward the end of your life, but no doubt you've broadened out again.
Oh, how do you mean?
Well, it's obvious by now, isn't it, that you were quite right. My dear boy, you were coming to believe in a literal heaven and hell.
But wasn't I right?
Oh, in a spiritual sense, to be sure. I still believe in them in that way. I still am, my dear boy, looking for the kingdom, but nothing superstitious or mythological.
Excuse me, where do you imagine you've been?
Ah, I see. You mean the great town with its continual hope of morning. We must all live by hope, must we not? With its field for indefinite progress, is, in a sense, heaven. If only we had the eyes to see it. That's a beautiful idea.
No, I didn't mean that at all. Is it possible you don't know where you've been?
No, now that you mention it, I don't think we ever did give it a name. What do you call it?
We call it hell.
There is no need to be profane, my dear boy. I may not be very orthodox in your sense of that word, but I do feel that these matters ought to be discussed simply and seriously and reverently.
Discuss hell reverently? I meant what I said. You have been to hell, though if you don't go back, you may call it purgatory.
Go on, my dear boy, go on. That is so like you. No doubt you'll tell me why, on your view, I was sent there. I'm not angry.
But don't you know, you went there because you are an apostate.
Are you serious, Dick?
Perfectly.
This is worse than I expected. Do you really think people are penalized for their honest opinions? Even assuming, for the sake of argument, that those opinions were mistaken.
Do you really think that there are no sins of intellect?
Well, there are indeed, Dick. There is hidebound prejudice, and intellectual dishonesty, and timidity, and stagnation. But honest opinions fearlessly followed, they are not sins.
I know we used to talk that way. I did it too until the end of my life when I became what you call narrow. It all turns on what are honest opinions.
Well, mine certainly were. They were not only honest, but heroic. I asserted them fearlessly. When the doctrine of the resurrection ceased to commend itself to the critical faculties which God had given me, I openly rejected it. I preached my famous sermon. I defied the whole chapter. I took every risk.
What risk? What was at all likely to come of it except what actually came? Popularity, sales for your books, invitations, and finally a bishopric.
Oh, Dick, this is unworthy of you. What are you suggesting?
Friend, I am not suggesting at all. You see, I know now. Let us be frank. Our opinions were not honestly come by. We simply found ourselves in contact with a certain current of ideas and plunged into it because it seemed modern and successful. At college, we just started automatically writing the kind of essays that got good marks, saying the kind of things that won a class. When in our whole lives did we honestly face, in solitude, the one question on which all turned, whether, after all, the supernatural might not in fact occur? When did we put up one moment's real resistance to the loss of our faith?
If this is meant to be a sketch of the genesis of liberal theology in general, I reply that it is mere libel. Do you suggest that men like...
I have nothing to do with any generality, nor with any man but me and you. Oh, as you love your own soul, remember, you know that you and I were playing with loaded dice. We didn't want the other to be true. We were afraid of crude salvationism, afraid of a breach with the spirit of the age, afraid of ridicule, afraid, above all, of real spiritual fears and hopes.
I'm far from denying that young men may make mistakes. They may well be influenced by current fashions of thought. But it's not a question of how the opinions are formed. The point is that they were my honest opinions, sincerely expressed.
Of course. Having allowed oneself to drift, unresisting, unplaying, accepting every half-conscious solicitation from our desires, we reached a point where we no longer believed the faith. Just in the same way, a jealous man, drifting and unresisting, reaches a point at which he believes lies about his best friend. A drunkard reaches a point at which, for the moment, he actually believes that another glass will do him no harm. The beliefs are sincere in the sense that they do occur as psychological events in the man's mind. If that's what you mean by sincerity, they are sincere, and so were ours. But errors, which are sincere in that sense, are not innocent.
You'll be justifying the Inquisition in a moment.
Why? Because the Middle Ages erred in one direction, does it follow that there's no error in the opposite direction?
Well, this is extremely interesting, said the Episcopal ghost. It's a point of view, certainly. It's a point of view. In the meantime...
No, there is no meantime, replied the other. All that is over. We're not playing now. I have been talking of the past, your past and mine, only in order that you may turn from it forever. One wrench and the tooth will be out. You can begin as if nothing had ever gone wrong, white as snow. It's all true, you know. He is in me, for you, with that power. And, well, I have come a long journey to meet you. You have seen hell. You are in sight of heaven. Will you, even now, repent and believe?
I'm not sure that I got the exact point you're trying to make, said the ghost.
I'm not trying to make any point, said the spirit. I am telling you to repent and believe.
But my dear boy, I believe already. We may not be perfectly agreed, but you have completely misjudged me if you do not realize that my religion is very real and a very precious thing to me.
Very well, said the other, as if changing his plan. Will you believe in me?
In what sense?
Will you come with me to the mountains? It will hurt at first, until your feet are hardened. Reality is harsh to the feet of shadows. But will you come?
Well, that is a plan. I am perfectly ready to consider it. Of course, I should require some assurances. I should want a guarantee that you are taking me to a place where I shall find a wider sphere of usefulness and scope for the talents that God has given me, and an atmosphere of free inquiry, in short, all that one means by civilization and spiritual life.
No, said the other. I can promise you none of these things. No sphere of usefulness. You're not needed there at all. No scope for your talents, only forgiveness for having perverted them. No atmosphere of inquiry, for I will bring you to a land not of questions, but of answers. And you shall see the face of God.
But we must all interpret those beautiful words in our own way. For me, there is no such thing as a final answer. The free wind of inquiry must always continue to blow through the mind, must it not? Trove all things, to travel hopefully is better than to arrive.
If that was true, and known to be true, how could anyone travel hopefully? There would be nothing to hope for.
But you must feel yourself that there is some stifling about the idea of finality. Stagnation, my dear boy. What is more soul-destroying than stagnation?
You think that because hitherto you have experienced truth only with the abstract intellect. I will bring you where you can taste it, like honey, and be embraced by it, as by a bridegroom. Your thirst shall be quenched.
Well, really, you know, I'm not aware of a thirst for some ready-made truth which puts an end to intellectual activity in the way you seem to be describing. Will it leave me the free play of mind, Dick? I must insist on that, you know.
Free. As a man is free to drink while he is drinking, he is not free still to be dry.
The ghost seemed to think for a moment. I can make nothing of that idea, it said.
Listen, said the white spirit. Once you were a child. Once you knew what inquiry was for. There was a time when you asked questions because you wanted answers, and were glad when you had found them. Become that child again, even now.
But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
You have gone far wrong. Thirst was made for water, inquiry for truth. What you now call the free play of inquiry has nothing more or less to do with the ends for which intelligence was given you than masturbation has to do with marriage.
If we cannot be irreverent, there is at least no need to be obscene. The suggestion that I should return at my age to the mere factual inquisitiveness of boyhood strikes me as preposterous. In any case, that question and answer conception of thought only applies to matters of fact. Religious and speculative questions are surely on a different level.
We know nothing of religion here. We think only of Christ. We know nothing of speculation. Oh, come and see. I will bring you to eternal fact, the father of all other facthood.
I should object very strongly to describing God as a fact. A supreme value would surely be a less inadequate description. It's hardly...
But do you not even believe that he exists?
Exists? What does existence mean? You will keep on applying some sort of static, ready-made reality, which is, so to speak, there, and to which our minds have simply to conform. These great mysteries cannot be approached in that way. If there was such a thing, there is no need to interrupt, my dear boy. Quite frankly, I should not be interested in it. It would be of no religious significance. God for me is something purely spiritual. The spirit of sweetness and light and tolerance and service, Dick. Service, we mustn't forget that, you know.
If the thirst of the reason is really dead, said the spirit, and then stopped, as though pondering. Then suddenly he said, can you at least still desire happiness?
Happiness, my dear Dick, said the ghost placidly. Happiness, as you will come to see when you are older, lies in the path of duty. Which reminds me, bless my soul, I'd never nearly forgotten. Of course I can't come with you. I have to be back next Friday to read a paper. We have a little theological society down there. Oh yes, there is plenty of intellectual life. Not of a very high quality, perhaps. One notices a certain lack of grip, a certain confusion of mind. That is where I can be of use to them. There are even regrettable jealousies. I don't know why, but tempers seem less controlled than they used to be. Still, one mustn't expect too much of human nature. I can feel I can do a great work among them. But you've never asked me what my paper is about. I'm taking the text about growing up to the measure of the stature of Christ and working out an idea which I feel sure you'll be interested in. I'm going to point out how people always forget that Jesus, and here the ghost bowed, was a comparatively young man when he died. He would have outgrown some of his earlier views, you know, if he had lived, as he might have done with a little more tact and patience. I'm going to ask my audience to consider what his mature views would have been. A profoundly interesting question. What a different Christianity we might have had if only the founder had reached his full stature. I shall end up by pointing out how this deepens the significance of the crucifixion. One feels for the first time what a disaster it was, what a tragic waste. So much promise cut short. Oh, must you be going? Well, so must I. Goodbye, my dear boy. It's been a great pleasure, most stimulating and provocative. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. The ghost nodded his head and beamed on the spirit with a bright clerical smile, or at least the best approach to it, which seemed which such unsubstantial lips could manage, and then turned away, humming softly to itself, "City of God, how broad and far."
But I did not watch him long, for a new idea had just occurred to me. If the grass were hard as rock, I thought, would not the water be hard enough to walk on? I tried it with one foot, and my foot did not go in. Next moment, I stepped boldly out on the surface. I fell on my face at once and got some nasty bruises. I had forgotten that though it was, to me, solid, it was not the less in rapid motion. When I had picked myself up, I was about 30 yards further downstream than the point where I had left the bank. But this did not prevent me from walking upstream. It only meant that by walking very fast indeed, I made very little progress.
So now we have some time. I don't think we have questions there, but my question to you, for your discussion is, what is the connection with freedom? Okay, so let's discover what are the relationships you discover between the topic tonight and this text. So that's your okay. So roads uneven. Okay, so. This is one of the texts I love the most. Great verse is amazing. In this discussion, one of the things that stands out all to you is obviously all the issue of relativism and how there's this idea in one of them in the brilliant one that he believes there is a truth that can be attained, and the other one that says no. Reality and truth is something that we always construe and seek to construe with our minds. But what I find very clear there is that one of the ghost doesn't want to go to heaven, thinks that you never reach the goal, right? There's no goal reach in the end. So his freedom is always about the process of choosing. I mean, you don't have any goal, any end. You don't never arrive. You're always choosing and choosing, and you're always having this relentless activity that is always searching without ever finding. You're always moving closer, but there's nothing that we're really moving close to, right? There's the other one has this quip about hope, like how can someone travel hopefully? There's no hope to arrive anywhere, right? So this is the fundamental position of the very irreconcilable. One thinks there is a final destination, a final place. There is a final person that you love. While the other one thinks, no, it's always, building this expectation for a person that is ultimately never there, really. I think that's if you want the fundamental thing there. There's two different views of freedom. One that is constantly choosing without any finding in the end, while the other one says, no, there is an ultimate. There's a freedom that wants the goal, that attains the goal, and the choosing is simply a tool to attain, to get there. You see the continuity with the different sessions too, but there is a God who created good and evil, because there is an ultimate good that we attain, right? There is this order in this world, possible because there is a creator God, and we can attain that God. We can be in relationship with God. These are all topics that are connected: the topic of good and evil, the topic of truth, of relationship with God, of freedom, and the order that we find in a human person. Okay, so it's time to wrap it up. I cannot keep it going much longer. I want to do a little plug-in here for Father Ignacio, who has there's a prayer workshop coming up here. It's going to start this coming week. It's going to be Wednesdays at 7 p.m. here at the Upper Social Hall. The dates are May 17th, so not tomorrow, but next Wednesday, May 24th, May 31st, and June 7th. You can just go to the St. Mary's website online, and you need to register if you want to join that. Register online through St. Mary's website. It's been a great joy to share these ideas with you and to join a bit of a discussion and to have this Q&A and read this text. It's been fantastic. So thank you for your eagerness. Thank you for... It's very uplifting to find this desire, this hunger, this joy in sharing ideas and seeking Christ in these things. So let us pray and conclude. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord Jesus, we've been listening to many things and discussing good ideas in this course, seeking to reflect on the world you created, and then also the reality of our souls and of yourself, Lord. How you made us for yourself, to love you and to seek you. Help us to attain true freedom in your name. Help us also, Lord, to gain that difficult, challenging ability to how to present your message to others who do not know you. How to bring that light that you gave us to those who are still seeking. And affirm us, Lord, in your truth. Affirm us in your love. That we may find peace and light and joy. In your name, Lord Jesus, we pray. Amen. Amen. Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you.